Hey, that dark elf mead, how's it doing? About yesterday, the dark elf mead finished out. As you can tell, it is a very light color, almost plummy. I think I want to now get some more blackberries. I'm going to taste it, so I'll do a tasting, you'll see that. But in my thinking process, what I'm thinking about doing is back sweetening it with some, or doing a secondary fermentation with some more blackberries. Let that sit for a little bit. Let it do a fermentation again. And then I'll probably back sweeten it at the same time. And then after I back sweeten it, I'll probably show you how to make it carbonated. I'm thinking this needs to be carbonated. Still want to keep it low, but it's going to be above session mead levels, but it should be just above, not much. So we'll see what the alcohol by volume is. I'm looking at probably about 8% right now. But you'll see as I go along what I do with this. And so we're back with this mead here, and so first thing we're going to do is cut off the balloon, take a gravity reading. They're all the same, so it should be about the same gravity reading. Everything's been sanitized, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm going to take these balloons off, put them to the side here. We're going to see what it tastes like, and then also see where we're going to go with this. I have an idea. I have a very strong idea where I'm going to go with this, but we may change that up as things go along. So, I double tied this. I triple tied this. Did a good job. This was not going to fly off. So, trash. Next, let's do a gravity meter or gravity reading. There's hardly any lees on the bottom, and this was fermenting out like it was just a soda. It was crazy how much fermentation was going on. But I'm doing the old-timey way of doing things, and that old-timey way works for a reason. These old mead makers knew what they were doing. In fact, I'm reading a book from the 1700s right now, and the guy that wrote the book, it was for beekeepers, and he was explaining the need for using or for boiling honey. And then he also went into great detail for the reason for using lemon zest, and he was talking about a very contemporary mead, what we know of as mead. And so, is that even, we got movement. So let's see here. Let's see. That's 1.00. Right on the money. So I'm gonna pour some of this off. Pour the rest of this back into the wine or mead. And we're going to put this back in and try not to do that. These things break really easy. They got one now that's called the Hercules hydrometer. It's plastic, really, is what it is. I really don't like hydrometers. This is something that I just been playing with. I do have a refractometer, and I'm going to use that for my final reading for verification. Because what most people don't tell you on these YouTube channels, the refractometer, it has to be at a certain temperature. If you do not use a certain temperature on your brews, that refractometer is going to be off. And so you really need to make sure that you got a good steady temperature when you're doing this. And like mine, it's so small. I mean, a lot of these YouTube videos, they'll do a full up close in or close up on the refractometers where you can see the numbers. Well, you can't really see those numbers that well. They're very hard to see. So let's see what this is. Same thing, 1.00. So 1.00 for both of these. That means it's ate through all of the sugars, which I expected that. Alright, so I'm going to put down here today's date, which is 22nd. That is 22, and it's 1.000. And then same thing with this one. Alright, so let's see how this tastes real quick. Kind of what I thought. Really don't have much blackberry flavor. I want some blackberry flavor in this. The ginger is almost totally gone. There is some lemon, not much. It needs sweetness. That's something that it desperately needs. First thing I'm going to need to do, I've got some blackberries here. I'm going to take these and I'm going to pour these into my little funnel here, and that will definitely fix that up some. just because I don't have a tool to work with it. We'll make this work. I didn't get a spoon or a stick or... But this right here is just frozen blackberries, 12 ounces each, that I am dropping in. And that's just to get the blackberry flavor going on. Okay. Next one here, I'll do the same thing. When you get frozen fruit, go ahead and freeze them really good. So these have been frozen for like 3 days at 0 degrees Fahrenheit. And then let them defrost and smash them up good. They'll produce juice and get all kind of jammy on their own. And this is going to change the starting gravity again. And I've got to put a gravity reading, so I'll have to do this again. And once I get this gravity reading reassessed, then I can then go from there. You don't want to use a wood spoon because wood can hold some of the various bacteria and stuff like that. You can't really sanitize wood that great. So if you use a spoon or something, or use something metal, preferably stainless steel or plastic. Got that. I'll rinse off this a little bit and get aerated a little bit, because really this is going to be a fermentation again. This is not going to be a process where I'm doing a here. I'm not going to be doing conditioning, is what I was trying to get at. I'm actually going to be doing a true fermentation. The color's already better. Once I get one, then I don't have to do it for the other. going to say that's 1 point. We'll say that's 1.00 or 1.002. No, 004. Alright. Cause it's, yeah. That's not even to 10 yet. So 1.004 new gravity. So 1, 22, 22, 1.004. Now this will give more of a blueberry or blackberry flavor. There will be a re-ferment. I can't help anything about that. That is the nature of the beast. So there will be a re-ferment. So those berries added very, very little sugar, but they should add phenomenal flavor. They will get balloons back on them. I will poke a hole in the balloons and we'll wrap this up with some string, and you will see me in a few days because it won't take but just a little bit of time, and these right here will go ahead and start the process of fermenting, which is what I'm wanting. I'm wanting those berries to get through a ferment. I want that. I want some of the tannins. I want all this good stuff. So we'll get that, and I will see you in the next few days. See you again soon. Okay, so today is the 25th. On the 22nd, I put in the berries. They fermented out within a day. So what I'm going to do now is I just let them sit on the berries. You can definitely do that. I'm going to take these balloons off, put them to the side on a sanitized surface, and then take a gravity, make sure it's fermented out. I won't show you that. And then I'm going to do something special with this. Alright, so both of them have original gravities of 1.00, so they have fermented out as I thought they did. So, just to show you what this is, when I was learning how to make mead, I was taught to save all the scraps that I sieved out. And the reason for that is I was told sometimes you will lose flavors, and this will bring back the flavors you originally wanted. To this, I've added more rosemary. I've added some, I added 2 cloves, 3 lemon leaves, and allspice, and some more black pepper. And I will put all that in the description below. But now I'm going to pour half of this into each one and go through here with it. And of course I'm going to use my handy dandy little poker thing, and I'll be right back with you when this is done. Okay, so both of these are filled up to the top. there's no way I really can tell what the final gravity is going to be on this because of the mixture, but I'm going to try to shake them up a little bit, put a balloon back on them, get a rough estimate of what the final gravity would be for both of them, and we'll go from there. So the as you can tell, we got some off-gassing still happening. I wrote down right here the finishing gravity for today, and then the new starting gravity for that. So this will re-ferment again now, and the reason why I left all this still in the fermenter, we're now just approaching 21 days. 21 days is a normal ferment. When you use yeast nutrient and when you use some of these Lalvin products and things of that nature, you get a faster ferment, but that doesn't mean a better ferment. A slower ferment can sometimes be better. Everybody's trying to do it quick. They want quick alcohol instead of good alcohol, and good alcohol takes time. So I'm still keeping this in the fermenter. I'm going to let this ferment out. It'll probably be, I'd say, 3 or 4 days that max that this will happen. I mean, when I put the berries in, it fermented overnight. I mean, the balloon was up and then the balloon was down, and it was 1.0. So it didn't take but a day for it, because I've got an active colony built up. So most likely same thing, maybe a day, maximum 3 days, and this will be fermented out. What I will do then is let this sit. I'm going to let this sit so that it can get all those flavors that were lost, because I lost a ton of flavor. I lost my spices. I lost just everything. It was just basically blackberry. I didn't even taste the lemon. So, and it's not that it melted together. It was just gone. So the idea is that we're going to try to get those flavors back as best we can. I'm going to try this old trick. And then after probably about, I would say, 2 weeks or so, I'll give it a taste. If it tastes right, then we'll cold rack it, what some people call cold crashing. And then after it kind of settles out and clears, I'll put it into a secondary conditioning bottle, and then we'll probably rack it out from there. I may not even put it into a secondary conditioning bottle. I may just go ahead and go straight to bottle conditioning, but we'll find out once we get there. So see you in a minute. Well, the dark elf is finished out, and so what I'm going to do, I'm going to, I cold racked it, and then I wanted to bring it back up temp, and as soon as I brought it up temp, all the stuff kind of floated back up to the top. So I'm going to siphon this. Unfortunately, I don't have a way where I can easily film siphoning at this point. You've seen it before, but what I'm going to do is take a piece of a cheesecloth that's been sanitized and wrap it around my siphon hose and stick it in there so that I don't get the chunky bits. And then I'll siphon it into my turquoise colored bowl that I normally have. You can see the turquoise in the back of the bowl. And when I do that, then you'll see what I do next. So I just wanted you to be able to see this. This is the cheesecloth going in. So we're going to start siphoning. I thought this would be neat to show. This is where trapped gases in the wine are actually degassing as I'm siphoning out, which is really, really, really neat. Another thing I wanted to point out, if I don't screw this up in the siphoning process, this wine is jewel clear, even though there's all these solids and everything. So I'll have a very clear wine to begin with. Or actually mead. Sorry, this is not wine, this is mead. This took way too long using that bag. If I had to do it again, I would use a wide mouth fermenter and a brew bag. It's way too tart, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put about a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Now this is going to sound weird, but they do something very similar. They don't use baking soda, but they use a chemical very similar to baking soda in professional wineries. I can't really get that chemical very cheaply, so what I thought I would do is I would use baking soda here to do the job, and it's already creating a reaction in there. I'm going to stir this up, and then we're going to go to the next step. Okay, that did pretty well. So now the next thing we're going to do is a 1/4 teaspoon of tannin powder. And then that we're going to stir in as well. Tannin powder will do a bunch of things. It'll do what they call enhance the mouthfeel, and it will also give that puckering astringency that we're looking for. So what I did before with the baking soda, that is called acid adjusting. And with acid adjusting, most times people add acids, but they never talk about taking acids away. So I used an alkali, which in this case was baking soda. I think the one that they use in the wineries is a calcium form of baking soda, if I remember correctly. But this is cheaper and easier. And it does the same thing, called both calcium and sodium are metals, so they're doing the same things. It's just a different alkali salt. The tannin itself will create a pucker and kind of cleanse the palate somewhat. So sometimes you'll hear people talking about meads and they'll say, oh, it's liquidy or flabby. Well, they mean that they're wanting a little bit of stringency to it, and they're just not articulating it precisely. And so if you want something with a little bit of astringency, add tannins. Tartness, it gives it life, it gives it depth. So these flavors, there's what they call the pyramid or the triangle: sweet, tannin, and acid, that you're trying to mix at an optimal level. And so my acids were way off and I needed to adjust. Now my tannin needs to be adjusted. Okay, so we just talked about the triangle or pyramid that involves meads, sweet, and sour, and tannins. So the tannins will take a little while to take hold, but I can already taste the difference. I really don't want to go too much tannins. I think wines have too much tannin. Too many mead makers try to make a mead taste like a wine, and it's not. Mead is the OG. We need to respect the fact that it is the OG and not try to make it into something like it shouldn't be. Kind of like I gripe about people that try to make meads into beers instead of braggots. So I think one of the things we need to do is put a non-fermentable sugar in here. And so this is the only non-sugar alternative I've ever tasted that tasted like sugar. And so this is a sugar alcohol, erythritol, and it cannot be broken down by the yeast. So it gives the sweet flavor without being something fermentable. Remember, we're going to be adding a fermentable sugar to this when we bottle, but I don't want the sugars that we put in there, I don't want to cause a bottle bomb, so I want to control how much fermentable sugars we put in here. Now, if you read on the back here, it says 1 cup of sugar is equal to 1 1/3 cups of erythritol. And also, this is 8 ounces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a little bit at a time. This is the other thing. You don't need to measure out sugar so much. You just need to be mindful of the sugar. So what I'm going to do is keep stirring this and adding erythritol until I get a sweetness that I like. That I know that is aggravating to some people, but everybody has a different level of sweetness that they like in their meads and wines. And so I like a really sweet mead. Some people don't. So you need to figure out what is right for you. And so it's going to take a little while to incorporate this. I'll taste it. I'll keep adding erythritol until I get to a flavor that I like. See you in a little bit. Okay, I'm not really happy with the level of tannin in here right now, so I'm adding in another 1/4 teaspoon, and I've added a total of about 12, so that's total of a 1/2 teaspoon of tannins, and I've added about, I would say, 12 ounces of erythritol. And ironically, I'm going to probably add a little bit more acid to this once I get this stirred up. I'm going to add a different type of acid though. We're going to be using malic acid. So why am I adding another acid to this if it's already acidic? The sugar's going to balance out some of the acid, but also different acids give different mouth feels. I used citric acid from the Meyer lemons. That gives a brightness, a freshness, but if you want something more rounded, then I want these berries to have more of a rounded flavor, then you use malic acid. Malic acid, you know, citric acid comes, well, you find it mostly in citrus. It's in a lot of other stuff, but that's where it really gets its name from, is citric acid. Malic acid is found in apples and pears. So if you want apples and pears to taste more like apples and pears, you add in your malic acid for that. And so I'm going to do that a little bit with these berries to give them more of a rounded flavor. Now we're doing a 1/4 teaspoon of acid at a time until it gets to the right flavor. Alright, we're going in for another 1/4 teaspoon of malic acid, making a 1/2 teaspoon. We'll stir this up, but it's slowly getting there. I can tell the difference already. That berry flavor is becoming more rounded, more complex, and it's changing up where the other flavors is. I now can pick up some of the ginger. So by adding all these different components into your wine and changing the pH and changing the type of pH that you're adding with your components, not just pH, but be very specific with your acids, you can get marvelous flavors and you can bring out flavors. So I'll taste this and see where we're at. Okay, I'm doing another 1/4 teaspoon, so 3/4 of a teaspoon of malic acid so far. So keep that in mind that you may need more than what you think, but you can always add, but it's hard to take away. Okay, so now I'm going to add in, I've already added in another 1/4 teaspoon of malic acid to make a whole teaspoon of acid. I'm adding in about another ounce or so of erythritol. I'm going to stir that up and I'll show you what's next. Now we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla to this. Correct that, I added 2 teaspoons. I tasted it and it just didn't taste right, so I added 2 teaspoons. Okay, I've used 6 teaspoons of vanilla. I've added about another 1/4 teaspoon of malic acid and about another 1/2 ounce, I would say, of erythritol. To this, I'm adding a 1/4 teaspoon of black walnut extract. I actually added a total of 1 teaspoon of black walnut into this. It needed something on the front end, and I didn't want to overpower it, but black walnut comes in on the front end of flavor. Really good, gives a nice depth. So now it's time to bottle, but before that I want to do my new gravity. Okay, my finishing gravity was 1.000. My new gravity is 1.030. So even though it's artificial sugar and all that, it still changes your gravity. You need to be aware of that. So now what we'll do is bottle. So we got 1 quart container and 4 beer bottles. Now I'm going to show you something that a dark elf would do. So he wouldn't create a bottle bomb, he would use carbonation drops. Again, using erythritol, so using science to not use fermentable sugars, and now we're using science again to give measured amounts of a fermentable sugar. And this one right here is a different type of sugar than you would expect. Here it is. So this is sucrose and glucose. So you got 2 types of sugars in there to give optimal fermentation. So we're going to put a drop in each one of these bottles here, and then we'll figure out how many drops put in there. Okay, so 1 tablet does roughly 12 ounces. These are 16-ounce bottles, and then the quart container, I went ahead and did 3 tablets for it, so we're going to call that good. Okay, so here's the capped bottles. Got a brand new bottle capper. Love this. Super easy. Don't know why I didn't get one years ago. This is just a fruit juice bottle. It's not really meant for pressure, so I may burp it every once in a while just to make sure, but I do want still some fizz, so I won't let it get too out of control. These are going to now be washed up, cleaned up, dried, and placed in gallon bags. And the reason for this is I cannot mark these for this Mead contest. So I need to mark the gallon bags and have them set up so that I know my dark elf. And then I'll do the others that I'm entering into the contest, and that way I can keep all the brews separated and know what they are.